Todd, nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys. How come I can't see everybody? Some guys are trying to hide themselves. If you're going to ask a question, man, you got to show yourself.
So just starting off, you've obviously produced a long line of great pass rushers, and Lou's polite. Grenard goes off. This year, you're looking for that role again. Mm-hmm. Is Brenton Cox the guy you think that can be the next really great one that you've had?
Well, certainly when you look at Brenton, Mamu, who ended up having a few sacks for us last year. Jeremiah Moon was a guy that got hurt and came back. You're always trying to evaluate those guys. I've been pleased with all of them and their work ethic and their ability to show some production. So, we'll just kind of continue to work those guys, and hopefully one of them can flourish and be productive and help the Gators do well in that pass rush.
So with the pandemic,
mm-hmm.
Lost a lot of time, obviously,
right,
with these guys. And I remember when Dan initially said you guys wanted to play 25, 30 guys a game or something. And I was like, what? But you guys are able to do that pretty effectively. Is that going to change, though, things because of not having the time that you were going to have normally?
Not really. I think you got to go the other way. I mean, based upon protocols and, you're not sure. This is an unknown thing about who might be available each week. I think you got to take the next step as far as cross-training guys so that they can play multiple positions. That gives you flexibility week to week within the season to put your best 11 players out there. So, that's really the approach that we've taken is trying to cross-train a lot of guys, getting guys into the rotation. We haven't had a lot of football. So, early in the season, I think the rotations are going to be critical. And at the same time, as we move forward, you've got to be ready for anything. And, I've made sure that guys learn a lot of different positions to allow us to play, the best 11 relative to the situation that we have.
Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Robbie, fire away.
Hey, Coach. Coach, Lou, like David, so how hard is it to replace him, and how are those guys doing at that position and the linebacker group in general?
Sure, Robbie. Hey, can you repeat that? Because you're kind of going in and out on me. I couldn't.
Yeah, I was just wondering how you replace a guy like David Reese, who's kind of stepping up there, and how's your linebacker crew in general doing so far?
Anytime you lose a guy like David, who's been a veteran, has played a lot of snaps here, and as a quarterback, that's a situation you've got to really, work at. Been very impressed with Ventrell Miller and his leadership role. Ventrell's done a good job of losing a little bit of weight. You can see it athletically, the way he's playing. And obviously you got him, you got James Houston, and then trying to get some of the young guys in there as well. So really been pleased with Ventrell's leadership at that position. And
back to Cox, what does he kind of bring to the table for you?
Yeah, I think Brenton, the thing I like about the guy is he loves to play ball. He's a really hard worker in practice. He's done a good job of working to develop some fundamentals that we kind of needed to work on to allow him to be successful moving forward. And I think as he's developed those things, it'll allow him to be the kind of player he wants to be. So I'm just pleased with the guy's work ethic, his demeanor, and really glad he's on our team.
Thanks, Todd.
Sure.
Zach, go ahead.
Hey, Todd. Hope you and your family have been well during the pandemic and everything. Dan mentioned the other day after the scrimmage that he noticed some of the young defensive linemen, some of the freshmen kind of standing out. Who are some of the guys that have stood out to you amidst, the large group of defensive linemen that you guys brought in the 2020 class?
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at the young guys in general, they've all shown up at times. I think the biggest thing is when you're dealing with young players, you'll see flashes of a guy being really good, but then it gets down to the consistency that you need to be the kind of SEC defense that we want to be. So those are the things that we're really working on as far as just being consistent with our play. Obviously, Javon Dexter is a guy that he has a lot of talent, and we're working to develop him. Princely's a guy that flashes. And then really both Jalen's inside. I've been pleased with their work ethic and their demeanor, and I like the position. I like where we are now from a youth standpoint, from a let's develop these guys standpoint. And we just got to continue to develop those guys, because the biggest thing up front is being consistent with your play to not create seams. And the hardest thing for D linemen to do is understand how to use their hands, because playing the run game with your hands is totally different than the pass game. In the run game, you're talking about pressing blocks, you're talking about shooting your hands. Whereas in the pass game, you're talking about swinging your hands, trapping guys, just trying to create that violence. And then you've got to be able to play the run and then convert the pass. So all of that stuff is really things that you've got to work with young guys. And that's what I think Coach Turner's doing a good job of, and will continue to develop those guys.
You mentioned Dexter as well as cross training. Obviously, he's so big, he's so athletic, and he was a versatile guy in high school. Do you guys kind of have an ideal fit for him, or is he someone that, even though he's so young, you're trying to move around?
Nothing's etched in stone with guys. I think that generally speaking, when you have guys, the older you are and the more familiar you are with our system, it allows you to kind of know what somebody else is doing. Whereas, when you're a young guy, you're kind of learning everything. So stability is probably a little bit more important there from the standpoint of getting consistent reps at maybe one spot, just so that you get kind of used to that. And then we build on it from there. So, with those guys, we'll build their flexibility as we move forward through the season.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mark Long, go ahead.
Hey, Todd. I'm just curious,
Hey.
how much does it help having continuity on both sides of the ball and head coach, all that, especially during the pandemic when you're missing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when we went into installs, say in the spring, we didn't really have spring practice, but we were meeting with our players virtually a lot, because as coaches, we had been through the system before. We kind of knew how to teach it. We knew the installations, and we already had our teaching progressions down. So I think that consistency allowed us to kind of work from a knowledge standpoint to stay on track. And then obviously you've got to get on the field and do those things. But I think the consistency, with the staff allowed us the ability to kind of be on the same page and already have those teaching progressions down as far as this is the next step in this defense and how you build it. And I think those were probably the biggest things that we were allowed to do with, the staff being,
Did
back
you find
together.
yourself having to play catch up big time when camp kicked off here, or did you feel like we had a little bit of a leg up compared to maybe others who might not have had?
I don't necessarily, everybody's got the same amount of time. Some guys had spring practice, some guys didn't. That is what it is. I don't think that's a big deal. I think the biggest thing is you can gain knowledge and know what to do when you're seeing it, but you got to physically go do things. You got to be able to talk to the guy with you. You've got to be able to be under some kind of duress, whether it's, a coach yelling at you, whether you're tired from the last 5 plays or, it's a hot day. You got to be able to handle those things and still go execute the call. So I think those are probably the biggest factors that you try to push guys right now to execute, so that we can do those things, in an environment that, is challenging sometimes.
Matt Baker.
Hey, Todd, I've got kind of an offbeat one, but in a normal world, your season opener would be Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing instead?
Oh, man. The Derby's on. So I think we got being that I was in Louisville, man, I got used to hooked on the Derby. So, we got meetings and stuff, and we'll be done. I think they push it back to like 6 o'clock now or something. So, maybe I'll check that out. If you got a pick, let me know.
I don't. You don't want my pick anyway. Thanks, Todd.
Yep.
Dimitri, fire away.
Hey, Coach, I appreciate you for doing this. Can you just talk about the progress your safety room has made? Last year, you had a pretty heavy rotation with 4 players in there. Taylor's going to be out now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen anybody step up to take his place, and just sort of how is that room shaken out?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when there's continuity both in coaching and in players, it leads to consistency in play. I've been real pleased with Steiner and the way he's kind of moved forward. Obviously, Sean is a guy that can flash too. Those guys have done a really good job. we brought some young guys in, and the good thing about the scrimmage is you're able to see, a guy like Torrance and McDaniel and kind of see those guys and how they could play when the lights come on. And, I've been pleased with all of those guys as far as their ability to continue to develop. Now, we're not where we need to be, but they're certainly working in that direction.
Could you see a guy like a Trey Dean taking on that role as well?
Yeah, I think Trey's a football player. Trey's played corner for us here, and we won 21 games. And as we move forward, you always evaluate guys and move them in and out. And with when you look at the spread and you look at, the things you ask safeties to do, sometimes guys that are playing corner can transition into that because you've got to be able to cover down the field. You got to be able to have a little length to you. And you're looking for guys that can move in space. So, that can happen with guys. And Trey's a versatile player for us, and we're going to move him around a little bit this year.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
River, you're up.
Hi, Coach. In a normal season, you'd be going into a lot of really, high energy environments when you play in the SEC. Places like Tennessee, Ole Miss. With the uncertainty around the crowd and how much of the crowd's going to be there with certain places. You have a lot of young freshmen coming in on the roster on defense. When you acclimate them to playing in the SEC, is it really a big deal to have them not face that environment and that crowd noise possibly, or is it more about the play? The level of play in the SEC than it is about, the environments that they would be facing when you try and acclimate them to their first year in college.
Well, they're keeping score, so it's important. And anytime you keep score, it's about going out and, executing and doing the things you got to do to win. So, we pride ourselves on being pretty competitive. And, anytime you're keeping score, it's important. So I don't care how many people are in the stands from that aspect of it. And obviously, when you get, crowds there, that makes it fun, exciting, and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that it won't be that way, but the importance of the game is still there. And therefore, we got to, be ready to execute and play and do the things we got to do to win.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
David, go ahead.
Coach, Dan mentioned last week that the nickel star position, you kind of have to be a unicorn to play that role for you guys. What are you looking for in particular now that you have a few players that you're trying to figure out that can fit there?
Yeah, I think that when you look at nickels in the National Football League and in college, you've got to have the ability to have some coverage ability to you. You got to have some stoutness that you can play the blocks as far as, the bubbles and things like that, because that's really the modern day sweep. Things happen a little quicker inside because you're closer to the ball. Generally speaking, anytime you get closer to the ball, things move faster. So your instincts and your reaction times have got to be really good. You got to be a good blitzer because, we're going to bring you at times. And when that happens, you're going to be in a one-on-one matchup and you got to be able to handle that. So, it's really all of those things, a guy that can blitz, a guy that can cover, a guy that can, set the edge on the run game. I mean, you've got to be able to do a little bit of all of that, to play that position because, that's kind of where the games went, is being able to have a versatile player there from a sense of a guy that can have corner/safety skills and kind of mix that all together.
All right, one more. What have you seen from the offense in the early camp and how they're doing?
Well, I think that you can tell there's a lot of continuity on that side of the ball when you look at, the players that are coming back. Obviously, Kyle is a guy that had an unbelievable season last year, and he's a hard worker. So that's continued to move up. You look at our receivers that we're playing with, our tight end. I mean, they got weapons over there, so it really helps us in the sense of challenging us every day to make plays and understand these are the kind of players you're going to see in this league. So this is how you got to get your leverage, because the biggest thing about, in the perimeter is your leverage and your angles and things like that. And when you can face guys of their quality, it lets you see on tape where you are from an angle standpoint, from a leverage standpoint to be successful and finish plays.
Cassidy, you're up.
Hey, Todd.
Hey.
This is actually not my original question, but just going off of that, I wanted to ask, Do you think spending a year at nickel is what got Chauncey drafted high and maybe even on the field so quickly for the Saints? Or Deuce, I'm sorry.
There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, based upon the conversations I've had, I mean, I think, first of all, I think Chauncey got on the field because of his ability and his work ethic. I think his ability to adapt to that position, allowed him to showcase his talents. And the guy busted his tail. He worked hard, and he's a really good player right now for him. I'm very proud of him and what he's done, and root for the Saints. So I do think it helped him though.
And then with the schedule change, how much of your summer has turned to Lane Kiffin, and how far back are you going, and what stands out?
Well, obviously, Lane's a talented offensive guy. We always look at our opponents, particularly new opponents, during the spring, summer, and kind of have a little bit of a feel for what they do and that kind of thing. So we were able to transition into that. Now that the fact that it is, say, expedited and moved up, we've kind of honed in on more specific things and gotten it more into a game ready week type, scouting report. And, he's a talented guy with an offense, and he's going to put the guys in position to make plays. He understands matchups and those kind of things. So we understand that it'll be a challenge, and, we'll have to play well and execute.
And then I know we got a lot of those Orange Bowl practices, but how has Kyer looked after, albeit a weird off season, and then after the first scrimmage?
Yeah, so Kyer's a guy that has worked hard, and just, look forward to him continuing to develop himself.
Thanks.
All right, buddy. Nope.
Good evening. I'm here. Coach, how are you? Good to see you again.
Good seeing you.
I have a couple of general questions for you. First of all, how long did it take you to learn how to pronounce Princely's last name?
I just say Princely. Let's go, Princely. Let's go, Prince.
Yeah, I still don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your scheme, which is attacking style. I'm assuming that's what you'll do this year.
Yeah.
The versatility of your players and being able to fire people from different spots.
Mm-hmm.
When you dial up a blitz like you had one, is it last year, the Tennessee, was that the walk-off blitz you had last year? The feel you get for that, I mean, part of it's scheme, part of it's timing, part of it's personnel. There's also a feel like an offensive coach.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you get that feeling, what it is, and when do you know it? It's several things. One, it's based upon matchups and how you feel about your matchups outside. Your thoughts on the quarterback, because at the end of the day, it's all about affecting the quarterback and really, how do you make the quarterback play bad? We always go back to a pretty simple philosophy. If we don't let them run the ball and we find ways to make the quarterback play bad, we have a chance to be in the game. So that really gets down to it. And then from a field standpoint, you kind of look, it can be based upon field position, could be score, could be, whether they've done maybe the last couple plays from that standpoint. And, you just kind of dial it up from that perspective. It's really more about the execution than say, oh, that was a great time to call it. Sometimes it's really about just executing the call and being where you're supposed to be. And that's what the guys have done a good job of, throughout our career here, as far as being able to execute things and being where they need to be. But it's instinctive also, and you seem to have that instinct.
Yeah, sometimes, I guess. I mean, you work hard at it. I mean, you get a feel. It's funny. You really try to get a feel for the coordinator, and you try to get a feel for what he's doing, how he's calling the game. You kind of look at things maybe he's done in the past from a situational standpoint. There's probably a lot more preparation that goes into it than people really realize, meaning you might go back 1 to 2 years to find something from a, fourth quarter standpoint, meaning, the first 3 quarters a lot of times can be the philosophy or their attitude as a coordinator. But then in this fourth quarter, the score kind of dictates what they got to do. And when that situation comes up, kind of knowing maybe by formation what they're going to be in, or maybe the concept from a passing game standpoint that they're going to run, I think that can help you. So there's preparation that goes into it, and there is a feel.
And, like I always talk about, we're looking to execute and attack people and find ways to get after the quarterback and make him play bad.
Thanks, Coach. That's good
Sure.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, our guys are waiting. So we got Nick, Zach, A, and then close with Edgar, and then we'll get our guys going.
Hey, Coach,
Go ahead.
with that star position, how much is it just based on personnel and kind of down in distance? Because I mean, you can have a guy like Trey and Marco, but then you have a guy like Bernie or even a linebacker kind of slide into that. So how much is it just the package depending on
It can depend upon personnel, obviously. Can depend upon the type of player in the slot, the slot position, the kind of offense you're seeing. What are they doing? I mean, are they a heavy run team? Are they a throw team? I mean, so that stuff does kind of dictate the kind of guy that you play there. At the end of the day, you've got to have a guy that has some cover ability, that has some blitz ability, and some ability to play the run. And at times he's like a linebacker, at times he's like a corner. And then that, as always, like he is going to be a blitzer too. So you do try to match it up though, relative to who you're playing, our situations. And we'll continue to do that with our guys and, see how it falls. But, I think the biggest thing is getting guys to execute, relative to what the call is. And if they do that, we'll be fine.
And then you've had a ton of great defensive linemen that you've coached. Sometimes you like to humor us when we ask you this, but does Brenton Cox kind of remind you of anyone that you've had?
Brenton's kind of a guy on his own, man. I mean, like he has ability, obviously. I'm really excited to watch him play. It's still early as far as, it's early in the sense of, hey, let's go play the game. Like I kind of knew John because I'd played games with him, and everything. So I kind of knew the kind of player that he could be. Brenton is a guy that, like I said, I've been very pleased with his work ethic. He's really worked hard to kind of, develop some of the fundamentals that he needed to be the kind of player that you guys are thinking or you're asking about. And I think the biggest thing that I see with him is his desire to be a good player. And if he'll continue to work hard and develop that skill set, I'm excited to watch him play. So, I'm really excited to watch him play, but I'd like to get through a few games before we, start ranking him with anybody else.
I'll come back to you in a month or so.
All right, come back.
Zach, go ahead.
Hey, Todd, just a quick follow-up on that. How would you say Brenton got that coveted #1 jersey without even playing a snap here?
Well, there's a lot of things you do within our program. It's not always about on the field. It's about how you handle yourself off the field. It's about your grades. I've been really pleased with the guy's attitude in the classroom. He takes care of his business, has a really high GPA, and has worked his tail off to be in the position he is now. And, you really pull for guys like that when they put that much into it. And generally speaking, the all-in investment, and what I mean by all-in is from a academic, from an athletic, from a social standpoint, those are the kind of things that allow you to get that kind of number. And he's done a really good job.
And then who all at this time is kind of working with you at that buck spot? And, what can you do with the versatility of those options?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at our outside backers, obviously, Jeremiah Moon's played there, Bogle's played there. You guys have talked about Brenton playing there. Mamu played there last year. So, we'll continue to work those guys and develop them. And, you always try and find ways to get, as many guys you can on the field. That's why I go back to the original question about cross-training guys and doing that because, defense is about one-on-one matchups, whether it's in the rush and the coverage and putting guys in position to win those one-on-one matchups. So, the guys that I just mentioned will be guys that continue to do that. We'll continue to try to get them on the field as we can relative to the situations that come up.
Sure. And then one final thing for you. Can you just talk about two of your linebackers? One, David Reese coming off that injury, and then two, Tyrone Hopper, and just where he's at in his development.
Yeah, so Hopper's done a really good job of learning the playbook, learning his position. He has some coverability. He plays really hard. The guy really loves football. I've seen him really progress from, say, last year to now. So we'll just continue to develop him and see if we can, get him in the rotation. He's a guy that really wants to, make plays and do the things you ask him to do. So we'll continue to work that. But I've been pleased with his progress. And then David Reese is a guy that obviously has speed. And he's done a good job of working with Coach Savage on his play strength and improving that. So he's able to set the edge and do those kind of things. So, we'll try to find a role for him as we move forward.
Thanks,
All right.
Coach.
Yeah.
Close with Edgar, and then we'll get the guys in.
Yeah, Todd, I just wanted to just get your thoughts on Marco, just the kind of season you're expecting, the attitude you've seen from him. He obviously could have left last year and gotten drafted probably pretty well, and here he is coming back.
Yeah, I think that, Marco's an interesting guy from the stance of he's probably the most versatile player that I've had from the standpoint of being able to play corner / star position. And that really creates value, for our team, for himself, because he's an excellent star. I mean, when you talk about a guy that can be instinctive, that guy can cover, he's got physicality. I mean, I remember in the Missouri game, a couple tackles he had in that game and the interception, but from a physicality standpoint, he really showed up there. So, I've been fortunate to have, some good players, that corner. I would say that he's probably the most versatile guy that I've had from a standpoint of you can match him up on a premier guy, whether he's in the slot or outside. And, those are the kind of things that we can do with him, and we'll work those in.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Coach.
I'll take care. See you.
You too.